CJ Albertson, welcome to the Single Track Podcast.
Yeah, good to be on, Finn.
I got to ask, is CJ your full name?
No, it stands for Clayton Jordan.
Okay. I've always wished I could have two initials for a first name, but my middle name is Alexander and my first name is Finn, and FA just doesn't have a ring to it. So anyways, well, hey, I don't want to bury the lead. You established a new 50K world record a couple of days ago, and I'm sure you'll do a full rundown of the experience on other shows. But I think I'm most curious, what was your motivation in the first place to go for this, given that a lot of your pedigree is, at the marathon distance?
Yeah, I mean, I had done it before, back when it was classified as a all-time world best. I had set it, and I was actually thinking about this last night, but I mean, I don't want to take credit, but I think I might. But I think I kind of started the maybe, I don't know if resurgence is the right word, because I don't know if the 50K ever had a real following, but yeah, I mean, the 50K all-time world best had been around, I think, since the 80s. Before I set it back in November 2020, I ran it on my hometown track, and it was like I ran 2:40, 2:30, and then after that they started doing a 50K in South Africa each year, and it's been reset twice since then. So it seems like somewhat coincidental that I set it, and then multiple people set it, in back-to-back years right after me. And now it's officially ratified by World Athletics. So I don't know. I feel like I may have played a role in getting the 50K going a little bit. So that wasn't really my motivation, because I literally didn't even think about that until yesterday. But I think it's maybe somewhat true now I think about it. But yeah, it's one of those things that it was in my contract with Brooks. So, it's financially good for me to do it. So, I mean, as a professional, it's like, that's part of how you, make a living. So yeah, that's a big part of it. And then also it's just, I mean, I feel like I could do it. So, why not?
I'm curious, is a 50K world record more lucrative than, say, an appearance at the Boston Marathon as a sponsored athlete?
It really depends. I mean, everyone's appearance fees, and like, I don't know how many people have it in their contracts that they would get anything for a 50K world record. Because I mean, most people won't even think about that because they don't do that. So, I mean, that's, and appearance fees are all on an individual basis too. I mean, there's general numbers out there, but for me, I mean, I'm technically not supposed to say, but it's roughly the same, actually. But for other people, I would say if they were just to go do it next week, they probably wouldn't get anything for the 50K world record, and they would get, a good amount for the Boston Marathon. So it all just depends on what is in your contracts, and how much you're getting at Boston. What type of caliber you are, how big a name you are, because those appearance fee numbers are going to vary pretty greatly. So,
of course, yeah. I think one of the reasons why I asked is because I'm very curious to find ways to get more high caliber athletes like yourself, Des Linden, into the sport. And I know that, there's probably not as much money and resources in the trail and ultra world as there is in the road scene. So it's cool to me that Brooks takes pride in that and wants to reward these types of performances in the ultra space.
Yeah, I mean, because without Brooks, I would have lost a few $100s. Well, a lot more because I would have, the race entry fee and the hotel, and I mean, I think I got a $50 gift card from the race. I mean, because it's not like it was a super small race. It's not like there's prize money or anything, and you don't get anything from like World Athletics or any organization, and then I would have, without Brooks, I would have been paying for drug testing on my own. At least I haven't actually, I don't even know. I still have it. I haven't even gotten a bill for it. So I don't know if I don't know. I never even asked, so I'm not sure. But anyways, yeah, there's not, there isn't, it would cost you money to set a world record, without, the backing of a sponsor. So yeah, it is an interesting thing because you have to, have the right situation to I guess want to do it. And again, if it is the way you make a living, you don't necessarily want to be losing money in your pursuit. So, yeah.
That's okay. I know we're kind of going down a rabbit hole here, but this is all fascinating to me. I wonder if we go back in the record books, who the last athlete was where it actually cost them quite a bit of money to go and set one of these, benchmark records in our sport.
Well, not very long. I mean, when Keira D'Amato set the 10-mile record, I remember there was a pretty big story that I don't remember exactly who all covered it, but breaking down all the costs for that, and she had set up a whole race, and she put a lot of effort into it. It seemed like, and it cost her a significant amount. I don't know if she ended up getting anything from a sponsor, but I think it was thousands of dollars. I believe that she paid. I don't. That might not be accurate, but I remember reading the story, and it was a significant amount of money that she was in the hole in. And again, she may have had I'm pretty sure it's Keira D'Amato.
Anyways,
now I'm blanking, but I'm pretty confident it was. And I don't know if she ended up getting a bonus later from that, but I know initially, she it cost money. So, and that was literally 2 years ago, so maybe less. So
it's wild that in this day of age that we still require athletes to pony up that amount to make it happen. But one other question that I wanted to ask you on this front, you went 90 seconds under the old record, which is super impressive. But what stands out to me is there was about 150 feet of climbing on each lap. And I think according to your Strava, you had over $1,000 of climbing across the 50K distance. So do you what do you think about this record? Given that you didn't do it on the perfect course, do you think that it's there's still a lot of time to be shaved off?
Yeah, I think my Strava slightly inflated the elevation gain, but yeah, there was a decent amount of gain. It was a decent amount of gain. None of the inclines were too steep, which I think suited me personally well, because I think I'm actually pretty good on 1% to 2% inclines and declines. I know I'm really good on the declines, but on the inclines that are a very moderate steepness, they don't slow me down too much. And so the downhills they speed me up, and then the downhills and the uphills don't slow me down as much. On more steep hills, I definitely am not good, but I think the specific gradient that all these hills were very conducive to my strengths. But yeah, there's definitely the course is also kind of hard to run the tangents, which I anticipated going in. But I think, yeah, there's definitely room to run a lot faster. And just run. Even on that course, I think there's a big gain to, you can run a lot faster. Hopefully I'm not in anywhere close to peak shape. I was 8 weeks out from my goal marathon, so I'm in good shape, but definitely still a lot of work to do. And I'm never in. Well, you shouldn't ever be in peak fitness 8 weeks out. But yeah, I think ultimately it's pretty reasonable, for myself personally, to go under 2:35, which would be sub 5-minute pace. And that's just kind of at the level I'm at right now. Not, if I didn't really improve much, I think I could be, under 2:35 on a fast course. Maybe with some help with some people. But I think, getting down, I don't know, somewhere between 2:30 to 2:35, I think I could do, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely probably about 20 people that could run sub 230 tomorrow, maybe. Because that's 450 pace. Sub 230 is like right at 450 pace, and so that's like 206.30 for the marathon, somewhere around there. And so I think all those 204 guys could, probably do that.
What do you think Kipchoge runs on that course?
On that course, I don't know. It's hard to know on that course. I mean, if he runs like a Berlin type course, would he run 437 pace? Maybe he slows down to 445 pace. I don't know the math on that, but it's maybe around 225, 227. I don't have all the 50K numbers memorized, but somewhere around in that ballpark.
Well, one thing, and this is the audience of this show is heavily invested in the trail and ultra running world, and I think a lot of folks are curious now that you've had a couple of years of this 50K distance under your belt. Are you interested at all in other records like the 50-mile world record or the 100K world record, or I guess anything above the 50K distance? Does that interest you at all?
Yeah, I'm definitely interested. I think the ones above the 50K require a little bit more specific planning and training. Whereas a 50K, I think almost anyone in marathon training can do a 50K. And like this race, for example, there wasn't a whole lot of like planning for it. It's just kind of like I'm doing my marathon build, and I'll show up and run a 50K. But the 50 mile and 100K, it's like that's got to be a little bit more of a dedicated set, and you can still do it while competing in marathons, but it wouldn't look the same. Like I probably wouldn't do a 100K 6 to 8 weeks out, whereas a 50K I wouldn't think twice about it. But yeah, 100K it'd be like, okay, I'm not gonna, maybe I'm running like my goal marathon would have to be, a few months. Like ideally it'd be like, yeah, it's kind of hard because you basically have to sacrifice either a fall or a spring marathon, because you could do like a 100K in the spring and then do a marathon in the fall. But again, if it's not financially feasible, like if you're gonna be turning down appearance fees and stuff to run 100K, it's got to be like worth it, I guess. So I don't know. Yeah, because I don't feel I can just walk out and do 100K, like the 50K. It kind of is.
Do you get any sense? And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're in your late 20s. Do you get the sense that those types of events, like the 50 mile and the 100K, you could save for much later in your career, and you could still get some level of peak performance out of yourself and do something that you'd be proud of today?
Yeah, I mean, I think even for the marathon, I don't really anticipate reaching my peak for another, I don't know, maybe 6 years or so. So I think for the 100K, I have 6 to 9 years or so where I can be more or less at my peak for that. So there is some, there's some time. I think especially if, well, I don't know. Yeah, I think there's some time because, you'll have, after 2024, there'll be some years where there can be maybe a free spot in the calendar to go after something like that when I'm in my early 30s. And I may not even be at my peak yet, but I can do, one or two and then come back, maybe like get some experience with it and maybe like a year or two later do another one. And so, yeah, but I eventually would like to set both the 50 mile and 100K world records. And then, or 50 mile and 100K, yeah. And then maybe the 100 mile when I'm done with marathons.
Do you keep tabs on the ultra world at all? Like, are you familiar with Jim Walmsley or any of these other guys that are like the Hoka Carbon X event that happened a couple years back where Jim was going for the 100K world record. Did you follow any of that?
Yeah, I was definitely watching that. I don't follow the ultra world too closely, just because I don't even like trail running. I don't like rocks. I don't like things that slow me. I don't like anything that makes running technical. Besides the steeplechase, I guess, but that's just more athleticism versus like technique. Because I mean, for the steeple, you don't actually have to have good technique. You just have to be like slightly coordinated, which is somewhat true in trail running. But it is more. I just don't like technical stuff, and it's a different style of running. And it just like irritates me, and the rocks just make my feet feel weird. I don't know. I don't really like it. So
you're closing the door there. There's no chance you're ever going to be on the trail scene.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's mostly because I won't be able to ever train for it. I mean, there's like a couple trail places I could go to in Fresno, but like I have to drive to them, and I'm just not. I'm realistically like I'm not ever gonna have time to like drive 30. I know that sounds crazy, but to drive 30 minutes to go run on a trail, like I'm just not gonna do it. Because I don't really want to do it that much. So like, I'm not gonna spend an hour of driving in a day to do something I don't particularly want to do. And it's like, it'd be running the same trail. And then in the summer, there's snakes, and like, I don't want to deal with snakes. So I could only run on the trail on winters. And I mean, it's just, there's not, and it's, yeah, it just doesn't, I'd rather just do comrades and see how fast I could do 100K.
You would do comrades.
Yeah, because that's on the roads, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so anything on a road I'll do. I would even do
how about the track
water,
stuff?
because
how about the track stuff, like those like 24-hour track world records and stuff like that?
Yeah, potentially. I don't know. I don't know if I'll have time to ever do the mileage for that. Because I'd want to like really run fast, and I don't know. I'm not. Yeah, 24 hours is different. I don't know, but the 100-mile is reasonable. I think 24 hours is different. But the trails. I would like Badwater. I think is enough on the roads. I think you hit trails later on in the race when you climb up, right? I think because you're on the road for most of it, or for a lot of it, and then
it's a lot
on
of
the trail
yeah.
when you're up Whitney. I don't really fully know the course, but I would maybe do that. I'd have to look at it though, see how technical it actually is, because I don't even know. but the idea of running on road when it's 100 and whatever seems like something I would win. So I like to do stuff I could be good at.
I'm gonna butcher this, but I'm gonna try to paraphrase it. You made a podcast appearance maybe a year or two ago. I can't remember which one it was, but you said that it was essentially crazy that more marathoners in your sport don't train above the distance. Like they'll cap their blocks with these like 22, 23 mile runs. Like in your case, you've gone well over the distance multiple times, including with this 50K mark. Do you think that same logic applies to the ultra world? Like if you were getting ready for like, a 50-mile race or a 100K race, that same logic would apply and you'd feel compelled to try something in training before the actual event?
Not 100-miler, a 50 mile or 100K. I don't think so, but maybe. I think I would maybe go longer than the time frame. I could see myself doing that. Depends how fast I was trying to run. Like for the 50-mile, maybe, because I would want to race that. And so like I would want to run sub 520 pace, which I don't know. 520 pace doesn't really feel like a race effort, so I don't know if I would need to. Like for the marathon, I go longer than the distance because I'm not trying. I'm trying to race the marathon. Like you're trying to run as fast as you possibly can. So it's like running a marathon is easy. I mean, you know, yeah, you can run for 26 miles, but to race as hard as you possibly can, it's like just like a 5K. Like you got to run more because you're trying to run all out for a 5K. Whereas those longer events they're different because you're not. Yeah. Plus, it's like feasibility wise, it's like, well, how long is it going to take to recover from doing a 80-mile training run? Like, it's there are. I don't know though, because I would want to see, because I don't really, when I've done like 35, like if I do something on treadmill, I don't get sore. So if I do like 37, like I've done like 37 miles at a, I don't know, like 550 pace or something on a treadmill. And that was just like a normal run effort where I felt fine the next day. So like, do I get to a point where I can do 70 miles like that? And it's just, then I can wake up and train like normal the next day. I don't know. I guess if I could, then maybe I would do over distance, but I haven't really thought too much about it. So I don't know.
Well, there's a couple, and again, I know this is mostly a trail and ultra focused podcast, but there's a bunch of questions I've always wanted to ask you around the marathon distance, and then also your approach to training and your philosophy around mental training as well. You mentioned a couple minutes ago that you don't think you're going to be reaching your peak at the marathon distance for at least another 6 years. You said 2024 in there, which I'm guessing is a reference to the marathon. Can you talk a bit about what you think your ceiling is performance-wise at the marathon distance and what your remaining goals are there?
I have no idea what my ceiling is. I don't think. I mean, I guess when I first started, I thought this would probably be my ceiling. Around 210. I didn't even know if I could run 210, but I thought if I could, that'd be pretty good. That'd be a good thing to achieve and like be satisfied with that career. Like I thought like that was like, that'd be really fast, like sub 5-minute pace. That seemed crazy to me because that's like a big barrier. But now of course that doesn't feel fast. It doesn't seem fast at all. I think sub 450 pace kind of feels what sub 5-minute pace felt like. Oh, that'd be cool to run, run 206. That'd be pretty good. But also I think I can do that. But then when I run 206, then it's going to be like, well, 445 pace, 440 pace, like, I don't know, that's the same. Like, yeah, I can do that. So I don't really know, you don't really know where your ceiling's going to be. Obviously, as you get faster, the pushing the ceiling up becomes harder. But, I don't know. I think when I was, younger, like especially when I started running, like when I didn't start running in high school, I started back in elementary school. But like in high school, like I felt like I was really fast, and just good at the mile and could run fast 4x4s, and I'm decently strong. And so I think like I've never really had fast track times as far as like collegiately or post collegiately. I mean, all my PRs are still from college, and I never have really ran on the track since, but. So it seems like my ceiling would be low because I don't have on paper any speed, but I think I actually do have speed. And I think I have like the genetics for it, because I was fast at a time. And so I don't, and I know like just like what I've been racing at in terms of my body weight and my BMI. I kind of joke, but I also think it might be true. I think I may have the world record in terms of marathon time for people, over a certain BMI. Wow. So like over, I don't know exactly what I am, like 22 or something, but I think I'm pretty close. Like, I mean, no one, you never really measure someone and like weigh them on the day, so there's no official thing, but I got to be close. So, I mean, theoretically, if I just things happen and I lose 8 to 10 pounds and I'm still just I'd still be slightly above, or I'd still be above average weight for a marathon standard. Then yeah, 202, 203 is like becomes reasonable. So there's so many things that I think can get, and I've never had a full training block where I've utilized altitude either. I've done some stuff with my altitude generator, but I've never done all the things in training altogether. So there's just so many factors that haven't, in my mind, been close to maximized. So yeah, I don't know. As Kipchoge is running faster, the world record seems harder to obtain. But what it was before, back when it was like 202 high, I feel like in my head that seems obtainable in a sense. 20109 is, I don't know. In my head's not there yet.
You said a lot of interesting stuff there. One thing I want to highlight, you said that in certain circumstances, for you personally, 202 to 203 sounds reasonable. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the American men's world record is Ryan Hall, just under 205, right?
Yeah, I mean that's an asterisk because it was Boston. So the official American record is 205.38. Yeah, that seems like I don't have any mental blocks about the American record. Obviously, like it'll likely take some steps to get there, and my PR is still 210, but I feel like there's like things where like mentally it's like that's not, you just don't even think about it, so it's not going to happen. But the American record, as of probably maybe the last like year or so, maybe not year, since training for Boston this year, the American record just seems inevitable that it's going to be broken really soon. And I feel like I have an equal shot.
So, what time are you targeting at your next race?
Probably low 208, high 207.
Yeah. But you think within the next?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. But if training goes super well, I don't know.
So you think that within the next 6 years, where you reach that physical peak, you think that 205 is possible, sub 205?
Sub 205,
and maybe even
in the next 6 years, the American record will be broken for sure.
And it could be you.
It could be me. Yeah, I think it'll be broken. Yeah, it'll just be a matter of how much it gets broken by. I mean, if I do it first, I can do it. If someone runs 203, it'll be harder. But so yeah, it's gonna be broken pretty quickly. But it may. I think if I can, I think I need to do it within the next couple of years. Because after the next couple of years, I think it'll take being in American record shape. So having the ability to run 205.38, I think it will take that to make the 2028 Olympic team. 2024, I don't know. It's kind of up in the air. I think you're going to have to be really, really fit to make the 2024 team. But I think by 2028, it's going to look a lot different. And, you'll need to be in around 205 shape. Not necessarily, we won't maybe not run 205 at the trials. And there may not be 3 people with those PRs, but you'll need to be in that type of a fitness. Like if everyone were to go to Berlin and run a paced race, you'd have to be able to run 205 in order to make the team in 2028. That's just what I predict. And so you kind of have to plan now, like, okay, you have to be there because that's the American record, but it's really not that good. And in 5 years or in 6 years, that's not even going to be great. It's just going to be, that's what you got to run to be competitive.
This is a little bit of a weird question, but I'm starting to ask it within the sport of trail running as well. Given that you're one of the top players in the marathon game, I'm curious, what is your relationship like with other top athletes like the Galen Rupps, the Connor Manses? Are you guys like colleagues? Do you guys talk a lot? What does that all look like?
Well, the two that you've mentioned, I've never talked to. So, uh, Connor Mance follows me on Strava, I think, but I don't think Galen. I don't even know if Galen Rupp would know who I am, but I guess maybe he would. I don't actually know. 50-50 chance he would know who I am, but yeah. I mean, I don't have much. I think I'm not in a training group, and I wasn't really known or good. Like I wasn't like an All-American in college, so I wasn't really like racing those guys in college. Whereas a lot of the guys, they had battles with each other in college, and then they are in like training groups, and they race each other a lot on the kind of U.S. road circuit. And I don't necessarily do a lot of those races because I also teach and coach, and so I just don't do all of those, and so I don't race them a lot or see them a lot. So I don't really know too many of the guys. I mean, there's a handful that like now I've seen a few times at Boston, and and they're cool when we talk. But like I wouldn't say I'm like super close with anybody, just because at best I see someone like twice a year, and we follow each other on Strava maybe, and that's. I don't have. It's definitely like, friendly. Like when we see each other, I think many distance runners are, well, maybe not friendly is the right word, because distance runners aren't overly friendly. We're kind of weird, but like you're nice and respectful, and once you get talking, you're pretty cool people. So, yeah, but yeah, I would say I'm more on the like. I'm just kind of like. I'm not like in like any circle of like pro runners, because like I'm just kind of, I'm like this outside dude that just kind of does his own thing, and I don't know. Yeah.
Well, going back, we talked a little bit earlier about motivation, and I'm curious, like when you're in a competitive setting in the marathon, are you somebody that feels like you have haters out there and you have something to prove and there's like a chip on your shoulder, or is all of the motivation internally sourced and it just comes from like a love of the game?
I mean, I definitely like to compete, so I mean, it's a lot of internal. I don't really feel like I have any haters. Sometimes I try to.
Well, they doubt the training style, right?
Create them. Yeah, but I think that I think everyone has like insecurities, but I think in some aspects of my life and my brain, I'm confident in certain areas. So like certain things that people like question, it's just like funny to me, and I just think that I'm just, I don't know how to say this without sounding bad, but I just think I'm like just smarter than them. So like it's not like it's like if like a first grader like hates on you. It's like you're not. That doesn't. It's just funny. Like it's not like it doesn't mean anything to you, because it's like, yeah, I know what I'm doing a lot more than you do, and the fact, and like I'm better than you because of this. Like the only reason you know my name is because I've gotten so much better and do this. Like, so it's not really, I don't know. I don't think I just, yeah, I don't feel like I have anything to prove, because I don't know. I think sometimes I'll, like when you talk about like pro runners, like I feel like because I wasn't necessarily in that circle of like people that knew each other in college, or that was like really good like before that, and because I do just kind of things that seem kind of dumb, like the indoor world record or the 50K things that people don't think of as like serious, that other pro runners like don't really respect me as a competitor as much, and that's probably not true, but I like to like think that sometimes, just because then it's like, oh well, like you'll respect me when I beat you by like 3 minutes. So, but I mean, again, I just kind of make that stuff up in my head, because I don't know what they really think, but you know, I don't know. Um,
Well,
I don't even remember the question now. I went to different places in my mind.
no, that was good. That was good. I want to make sure we cover a couple other things. I do want to get a little bit into your training philosophy, but first, you've talked a lot in other interviews about the importance of the mental side of the sport, and you've talked about the central governor theory before, and how you have to think about times and distances in terms of confidence and normalizing them. And I think this audience might not have heard you riff on this before. So, can you talk about your philosophy when it comes to like preparing yourself mentally and how you reconcile it with like inevitable physical limits?
Yeah, I mean, I think you just can't ever like view something as being like super hard. I think, if you're when you view what you're doing as some like grand task that's like going to be like really, really difficult and hard, I don't know, I just think it makes it harder to do. So um I try to view things as like they're just normal things to do. So, when I run, like, cause like for some people they're like, oh, the 50K, like that's 31 miles, like that's more than a marathon. And in my mind, it's just like I'm just running for, a little over 2.5 hours. Everyone does that. I mean, how many people run 2.5 hours? Like tens of thousands of people every single Saturday and Sunday. Like it's just, you just go do it. And so it's just like it's not this like big scary thing. It's just something that you do. And then like, you have to have training, and your brain has to like it has to have some realistic things that it sees to make it appear realistic. So you do have to actually do the training. But you also have to just do like, you have to go longer and farther and faster in training too, so that you see it. And you won't have that big jump all at once, but it's like if you've only ran 16 miles in your life, well, then run 18 miles the next week, and then a few weeks later run 20 miles, and then 22, and then like don't just stop and run 22 miles for the next 10 years. Run 24, run 26, run 28, run 29. You don't have to go up by twos. I don't know why I was saying twos, but like everyone just kind of is like, oh, like when you're in high school, you only get, or when I don't know what people run in high school, that's too broad. But when you're in college, oh, you only go up to 16 miles, or oh, you only go up to 18 miles, and then you stop there. And it's like, that's kind of like, everyone's max is like kind of run 18 miles in college. And then it's like, and then you get into like marathon training. Oh, now I'm marathon training, so I can go up to 22 or 24. And then you just kind of stay there for years. It's like, why? Why don't you just go up? And then you run 30, and you run like 34, and like it. So then like you're just you're just following sound training protocols. Like you reach a certain thing where it becomes normal, and then you increase the stimulus a little more. By running a mile or two longer, or by running 5 seconds a mile faster, or whatever. There's lots of different variables you can do, but yeah. So I don't know. I don't think anything I do is really like crazy. It's just like I just do a natural progression of training. I just don't stop at these arbitrary numbers that other people stop at for no particular reason.
Fascinating. I mean, you just used the word arbitrary there, which I think is interesting. I'm curious, when you think about like all of the established training paradigms out there, and how to approach things, like you mentioned what college runners are expected to do, high school runners, etc. Who are your inspirations in those spaces? Like as you've developed your own methods over the years, or you've adopted methods over the years, what are you pulling from? Like, who are you pulling from? Who are you getting inspiration from? Or does it all just come from your own trial and error?
I mean, definitely lots of people. I think I don't know where I got my overarching philosophy, because my overarching philosophy is with anything is like, I just want to constantly think about everything and not have one philosophy, because like there's never there's in almost anything, there's never like a right or a wrong or a set way to do it. It's like there's just all this stuff, and you kind of just mix and match. Like you figure out how to make it best work, and so there's never really a right way or a you have this philosophy or that philosophy. It's like it's kind of just like there's all these ideas, and how do you put them all together? And that constantly kind of changes, and then you have so many different variables. There's just so many variables with training, like, because you can write a training philosophy, but your body doesn't respond to a training philosophy. Your body responds on the energy that it has, on the nutrients that it has, on the cellular signals that get created based on so many different things going on within your body, within your mind, in the actual workout that you did, and there's so many different things. So there's so many different aspects of training. Like people will be like people always have debates on like, oh, well, you run at this intensity because, more mitochondria are produced. Okay, cool. But like that, like I'm super interested in mitochondria, and I'll go through like whole nutrition things on trying to get the most out of my mitochondria using all these different things. But that's just one very small aspect of like running performance. Not small. I mean, the mitochondria is pretty big, but it's one aspect. It's like, well, okay, yeah, running 2 minutes slower than your 5K pace may be all that's necessary for mitochondria, but like there's a whole neuromuscular aspect of running, and running. You have different running economy at different paces, and it's like if you don't have the best possible economy at your actual 5K race pace, you're not going to run the fastest you can for a race pace. Then if you're actually trying to race and sprint, handle surges, like there's so many different things than just your mitochondria. So like people get on these stupid arguments based on one little thing, based on like research that may or may not even be true. Because I just was messaging a guy that I raced in high school, and he's doing some really cool research. They just discovered a new protein that's involved in mitochondria that is involved with in the lactate shuttle process, and basically they're discovering more about why certain zones of intensity or certain training will help with mitochondria, and it's this whole thing that we've never even looked at. But it's like, so all the research that we've done is like it's still just guessing, and I love research, but it doesn't show everything, and not all research is necessarily great, and sometimes we find out 10 years later, oh, this was actually misleading and wrong. And so yeah, it's just there shouldn't ever be one philosophy that you follow completely. One, because everyone's different too. But yeah, definitely. I mean, Renato Canova, I've definitely read a lot of his stuff and actually talked with him. And I think he doesn't necessarily use.
Who's he, by the way?
What?
Who's he?
He coaches. He's coached. I mean, world record holders and Olympic champions from the 800 all the way through the marathon. He's based out of Italy, but he's coached a lot of like East African athletes. Yeah, I mean he's been coaching for a long, long time, but yeah, so he knows all the research, but also it's more based on like, this is the goal of the race. So how are you going to run this pace for, if it's a 3K steeple, if it's a 5K, if it's a marathon, like how are we going to get you to run this pace? And so it's kind of based on the philosophy of that. It's like, yeah, you can look into like this zone does this zone does that, this lactate, whatever. But it's like, he doesn't use like zones like that. It's just like, it's more based on like, okay, you got to be able to run faster than race pace, and you got to be able to run for a long time just slower than race pace, which is very simple, So you got to do a lot of work, kind of 5% faster, 5% slower. And then as it gets close, you got to do a lot of work basically within right around race pace. And you got to learn how to run that race pace and extend that out to as close to the race distance as you can. Obviously you can't run the whole race in practice, but you do as much of it as you can. And so it's actually a pretty simple. I mean, I think his philosophy is actually really simple when you break it down. And so I really like it and have gotten good things out of it. Then when you actually apply it to training, I think it's like when I apply things to myself, it's like, okay, in my head, I can think of a workout that is theoretically the best, but it's like in my life, I don't have the mental capacity at that moment to do it, or I don't have the energy to do it because I have this thing in my work, or it's 90 degrees outside or 100 degrees outside or whatever. So like, you have to, what's textbook the best thing to do isn't always what fits your life the best. Which is also, I mean, Canova's philosophy too is like, you train the person, you don't just have a philosophy and then the person does your philosophy. It's, you have the runner and you train the runner.
A couple of more questions I have for you before we go. And I know we could talk about this all day and maybe we'll end up doing a round two. I'd love to do it. But I was watching a Sidious Mag video. It was like a 22-mile training run you did, I think, before Boston earlier this year. And that was awesome to watch. But the most interesting part of that was you were inside your house getting interviewed and you had all these interesting training contraptions like that sauna kit in the bedroom and you had that red light tool. And can you talk about this part of your training? Because it seems like you're one who doesn't leave any stone unturned when it comes to like recovery, nutrition, and stuff like that. So maybe give us more of an insight into how important like the other 22, 23 hours of the day are in your training.
Yeah, it's partly a hobby too. Like I don't know like the extent that I look into, nutrition or supplements or recovery protocols or whatever. I don't know that that's fully necessary, but it's always been like a hobby, and just like experimenting with things and I don't know. I mean, just seeing like what things do. I don't know. I'm just like very curious, I guess. And so yeah, things just interest me to try. And it's more like fun for me, I guess, to just try different things and to see like how all these different things can affect the human body, and some things don't. And I mean, I've definitely like experimented with things as like, oh, that was probably a waste of time or waste of money, but whatever. Like it was still the experiment. I mean, I would like love to be in a lab and just run experiments all the time, but then also I wouldn't want to do all the work. Like I wouldn't want to go through all the process. Like I wouldn't publish anything because I don't want to go through the paperwork, the process. I want to get as much information as I can in as short as time possible. So I don't want to do any like logistical stuff. I just like, that's why I mean, experiments of one are never good, but at the same time, I also don't really care about the results on other people. Well, I do because I'm a coach, so I do. But like, I'm mostly concerned about like, oh, how did it affect me? And so when I'm doing experiments on myself, it's like, well, it may not work for everyone, but it works for me, so it doesn't really matter. Like it's, I find out. But I mean, coaching too. Like I want to do, I don't know, like I kind of want to do a marathon block that's just like, that just is just makes no, like it's just like something way different, like where like you never do an easy run. You just, well, I mean, people have done that though, like the Egloy method, and you just do a bunch of intervals, but like they're like, Egloy, I don't know. He was from like the 50s or 60s. Gosh, I think it's IGLOI. But he'd basically do a bunch of intervals. Just intervals. But like, so maybe you run like, you run for like a minute at a time and then you take like 20, 30 seconds rest. But like your minutes at like your easy day is you run like a bunch of 300s at 450 pace and you do like 10 miles worth of that. And so your heart rate is like 130. Your average heart rate's around 130, 140 the whole session. You have some spikes, but your average, and you get your normal 10 miles of volume in, but it's just all at 450 pace. But it was the same effort and same, I don't know, same strain, but you have the neuromuscular work of 450 pace. I don't know, or you just do like, I mean, there's just so many possibilities of things you could do. Because in other sports, like in swimming or in cycling, like they train so much differently. Like cycling is so much volume. Like we do, like marathon runners train like sprinters on a bike. I mean, we do so low volume compared to even a swimmer. Actually, swimmers, even high school swimmers, are in there 4 hours a day. They practice 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon. Heck, I'm a professional runner. I barely run. I don't even run 2 hours a day. I do half of what a high school, JV swimmer does. They might be exaggerating for some schools, but I mean, all the high schools around us, that's what they did. So, yeah. So maybe I just need to run for 4 hours.
What does your current recovery your current warm up and recovery protocol look like outside of the actual run? Like, what are you doing in the house to warm up and cool down?
Not a whole lot right now. I wake up. It's like the morning, so I try to sleep as much as I can. So the amount of time before I wake up to when I start running is not a lot, maybe like 15 minutes. So I pretty much do nothing. On Sundays when I'm doing a really hard run, then that'll be different. I'll do some foam rolling. I'll do some little things to loosen up my back because my back always gets tight. I may do the red lights to warm up a little bit because that just gets everything warm, and then I may do some like little warm up drills and some activation, like some of the stuff you saw in the Sidious video, like some glute activation, some soleus calf stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's not a super long. And then recovery, like cooling down. I don't do a whole lot. I just kind of like try to like relax. I mean, as much as I can, because I have like work, but I mean, my work is like PE, so it's, I guess I can't. I don't know. I just basically just. I think the best thing is just to not be stressed, which I can't always control, and I'm sometimes laid back, but then I'm also sometimes really, really, really not laid back. Like I'm very when things enter my mind, they don't leave my mind until they are 100% solved and resolved. So that is problematic a lot of times. But I would say my energy levels and my recovery is 95% gonna be related to my stress and my sleep. All the other stuff, I mean, foam rolling, stretching, whatever. I think if you're strong, they don't really matter a whole lot. So, I've been doing more strength training, but I did a lot of strength training when I was younger and just played a lot of sports. So I had a lot of base strength. So, all the like rehab things and prehab stuff that people do now, I don't really have to do because I was strong as a kid. So like I did that. I essentially did all that stuff for, 15 years before I was running professionally. And so, when you do things when you're young, it sticks better. And so now it's just like, if my body and my mind can rest, then I'm good. If they can't, then I'm not so good. I think that's actually true for a lot of people, but
I think you're spot on about the stress piece. Like minimizing stress is such a huge lever in this whole process. And I mean, I know sleep is getting all the credit in the world these days, but the stress piece is huge.
You can't sleep if you're stressed either. I mean, your sleep is not very good. But yeah, I mean, sometimes I just straight up won't do a workout because it's like I just feel so run down because of like something that has been in my mind, and it's like you just can't run. Like, I mean, some of my college athletes, like what they do on such relatively little sleep and I know what they're dealing with, like their stress is like, I physically, like, I don't, like, people think I'm crazy, but I physically don't know how they do what they do. Just knowing their life, I don't understand it. Like, it is actually crazy to me sometimes. And it's like, we try to like change habits because like I want them to be at their best, and I know they can do so much more. But I think there's so many people that have also just accepted what their life is with their current sleep and stress levels, that they don't actually believe that, like, wow, I would be like minutes faster in a 5K, even just like that is my potential. It's just like I'm living this life. Or like people's diets, like they don't even, because like if I eat unhealthy for a couple days, like maybe after a marathon, I just kind of like let loose for a little bit, I feel so bad. And I think there's such a large population of people that feel like that every day. But since you feel like that every day, that just becomes normal, and you don't realize how bad you feel. And I don't say that to say like I'm better than people and like, you know, you feel terrible, you know, but like at the same time, I think people have accepted this level of this low quality feeling that they don't know is low quality because it's just become normal. And it's like, no, like, let's like change that, because like your body's like capable of a lot more. And you can feel so much better, and it's just like, I don't know. Yeah, but like you just don't know that until you get there. It's like running. Like no one can comprehend how running is fun. It just seems so weird, and it's like, who the heck wants to run? Because feels so bad, and it's like, yeah, it does. But then once you get in shape, it's like, oh, this is what running feels like. Like this is nice. Like this is fun. But it's like you can't even fathom that until you actually get there.
Break on through.
And I think when it comes to sleep and recovery and stress and nutrition and all that, I think that's where people are at, where it's like they're in this phase. It's like, oh, I didn't even know that you could feel differently.
Couple rapid fire questions here for you before we close up. And I've super enjoyed this conversation, man. And we'll have to have you on for round 2, because we didn't go nearly deep enough into like the mental side and a lot of this training philosophy stuff. First question for you: who's your favorite runner of all time?
I don't have one. I've never had favorites of all time, like with anything. I don't know why.
Okay, I'll rephrase it. Who is a runner that is currently impressing you right now?
I mean, obviously Kipchoge for sure. Like I think who do I want to race the most and be in a race with? I mean, I was literally just talking with my wife about this. Like, I want to be in a race with him, because if I know specifically Boston, if I'm training for Boston and I know that he's in it, I'm gonna be in the best shape. It's just like I would want that so bad. Like I would want to be in such good shape. And so, I mean, I think that means the answer has to be him.
What's a good book you've read over the years that you'd want to share with the audience?
I don't know. I actually don't think I've read an actual book in a long time. I read a lot of information, but I don't necessarily read books.
What's an interesting tidbit of information you've come across recently that inspired you or made you rethink something?
I found out something recently. I was listening to an interesting podcast series. Let me
Oh, take your time.
just a second. It's not new, but I just recently listened to it. Okay, it's by Timothy Keller. It's called Questioning Christianity, and
Wow.
it's basically just like it's basically like it's like using reason. It's basically discussing Christianity in the scope of like reasonable arguments, and it's just a very, I think the way in which he talks and phrases things, and just his whole demeanor, like very much resonates with me. And a lot of things are just very like thought provoking, because there's no like this is right or this is wrong. It's just like, here is reasonable arguments and what makes the most sense, or what, what is maybe more likely, and it's just very interesting to listen to.
So when you're going out on runs, you like to grapple with the big philosophical questions.
I mean, not all the time in a run. I mean, yeah, I'm pretty much. I like to. I don't like. Okay, I don't like small talk at all. Actually, like I don't get the point. I mean, I know I do get the point, but I don't like it. But yeah, I would always talk about deeper things. Like I have no reservations, but like I'll talk about literally anything. Like the deeper it is the better, I guess, or the more thought provoking it is. Like that's like I'm always up to talk about anything. I just like to think, and I like when other people like to think. And I kind of have strong opinions, but I actually don't. Sometimes I phrase things as I have a strong opinion, but I have a strong opinion that I want you. My strong opinion is I want other people to really think deeply about something and not be set that like something is right or wrong, or that it's there's this absolute you're right or you're wrong. It's like I want to just think and talk through things because I don't know. I just think it's good to think, and I like thinking and like hearing different things, but in a thing where it's like situations where both people just want to think and discuss ideas. Like it's just I like that.
Right on.
Like Joe Rogan podcasts, I feel like are good because Joe Rogan's like he's a personality, but also people just kind of talk, and it's like everything's like open. It's like I mean he'll talk about the most random stuff, but it's like just kind of open to anything. And it's like I like things like that where it's like we talk about literally anything, and some things may end up in the end I think is dumb, but like as like at least let's think about it.
Last question I have for you: if you could put a message on a billboard for all to see, what would it say and why?
This was funny because I was just talking about, we were joking about someone running for like office or something. And I was like, oh yeah, I'd put a sign up for you. I'm like, actually I wouldn't. I would never I'd never be one of those people that puts up signs. Even if I really believed in a candid person, like I just hate when people put signs up and stuff. So I wouldn't put up a billboard. I don't like the idea of like I don't know why. I would probably just put like a smiley face or something, like something that's like, doesn't actually say anything. It's just subliminally puts you in a better mood. So I don't know. I'd maybe have some like psychologist do something that just like maybe it's just a color or a smiley face or a facial expression or something that just it doesn't actually say anything, but it brings some goodness. I feel like that's the best approach with a billboard, anyways.
Right on. We haven't had that.
People don't like. No one really likes to be told something. So even if you put something that's really great, the fact that it's a billboard, it's like you're trying to tell someone something. And I don't think anyone really likes that. Or very few. I mean, some people do, but I don't know.
Well, CJ, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. We'll make sure to link to all of your social media in the show notes, and I'll make sure to link to all of these different training references in the conversation as well. Do you have any calls to action or final thoughts that you want to leave the listeners with before we go?
I mean, based on what I just ended with, probably not a call to action.
I was trying to get you there.
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you are in a situation, I guess, where you're like, you're maybe have the opportunity to think about something kind of deeply, even if you don't really want to, maybe just kind of take some time just to think about it, or just to think, maybe just like to pause in life and just like think about like, wow, like what is my life? Like not like what is life, but kind of what is my life? Like what am I doing? Like why am I living? Like what am I really trying to accomplish or like do with, like what do I want my life to be, and what do I want it to mean to other people? I don't know, something like that.